chips, and it all comes from like the powder, and that powder gets everywhere.
Yep. I don't know how you're going to keep the spicy ones from the not spicy ones.
Right, they're all just going to be vaguely spicy by the time it goes through transport and everything.
What if they all have the same powder on top, but they mix separate chips, and some of the chips have something spicy mixed into the tortilla chip?
Okay, now we're talking.
That way you can't just smell it and find out. Well, I guess you probably could.
Probably still, maybe could, but... Anyway, it is the rule that if Drake is not here for 15 minutes, we get to use Pathfinder.
I think that's got to be like 20 minutes because I'm here too.
True. Hello.
I actually don't care.
I was going to say, I think that's how most of us are anyway. We're going to slow roll this thing. Maybe people will hop in and out as they go. Maybe they won't. Maybe it'll just me and Drake arguing all night. That's cool. We do that anyway. Also, probably going to be a short one. Because I have a flight. I have to leave my house at 5 in the morning. It's currently 8 p.m. But anyway, we're just doing a quick little roundtable today. Shortly after the last final session of Wild Done, I sent out a little poll, a little survey, to get people's thoughts on how they like the system, what system they might want to use moving forward, and also each of the individual elements of PF2, so that if we do decide to use it, we can fix the things that we don't like. If you've been watching our games for a long time, you're probably aware that we have taken 5e and bastardized it to the point that it is barely recognizable. We are not above homebrew, and we are not above gutting a system and turning it into something completely different. The question now is kind of, do we want to keep doing that to 5e, or do we want to try doing it to a new system? So that's what we're going to talk about. That's what we're going to hopefully decide over the next couple of weeks. After this roundtable, there will probably be an extended break, maybe a month or two, maybe a little longer, we'll see, maybe less, where we decide on the system and get all our characters hammered out, and give me some time to actually, prep a campaign. And then we'll be back in one of these two systems, or maybe one of these three systems, who the fuck knows. Let's just jump into it. We'll probably have to do some recaps as we go if people show up.
Oh my god, I just need to get it out there. It's so much better to use Discord on the app and not on web. Discord web is awful.
Discord web is a nightmare. And phone is the worst. I don't know how Zeke's doing it. It's
it's
nightmare.
totally useless. This is not going to last long.
Yep,
phone's the worst.
Yep. Anyway. No surprises over here, actually. Actually, you know what? There was a surprise over here. So one of the first questions I ask is just right now, without any further discussion and with no homebrew and no details, how would you be happy with each of these systems? And we started with 5e exactly as it's written, Pathfinder exactly as it's written, and then everything in between, kind of like a sliding scale of a little bit of homebrew to a total overhaul, and then back to full raw of the other system. Over in Telegram, I posted all these results. Or on Foundry, if you feel like jumping on Foundry, but that's a whole commitment, so I understand if you don't. And actually, let me go through these over in Discord, too, because I think people over there might give a shit.
Possibly.
Hello, Discord.
I just like that I can zoom around weirdly on Foundry, so that's probably why I'm going to use it.
Yeah, it's also a big fucking infographic, because I put it all on one thing instead of splitting it up like a smart person would do. So being able to zoom in and out and go to different places is probably handy. I guess I'll throw it over in game design, and I guess also Wildfold.
Wildfold discussion would make sense.
Yeah, let's do that. While Drake's AFK, everybody loves PF2. There's no disagreement.
I'm here.
Son of a bitch.
Go fuck yourself. You can preach your enjoy any system, but speak for your fucking self.
It is true. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. We went down to the individual features here, right? And there were 5 options. And it was like, dislike, love it, no opinion. One of the options was, I hate this so much that if it stays, I'm not playing.
Ooh.
And Drake used that option extensively. I assume it was Drake anyway. He was...
Almost certainly. I do appreciate that you took my answers out of that poll.
Wait, what did I take out?
I'm Shit, this thing is...
What answers? Hang on.
Which one? The crowd control philosophy. There's no way I put love.
No.
Put a casual, like...
So the ones with asterisks, there are 3 of them. There's crowd control philosophy, ancestries and ancestry feats, and social rules. They were not on the survey because I forgot to put them on the survey, or I just didn't think of it. But I put them there because people put them in their little write-in boxes as things that they either liked or disliked. And then I did kind of a guesstimation based on what we had talked about. So for those who only watch the streams, what we do when we're done with the game is we go back to our little Telegram group and argue for 6 days straight until the next session. So there's been a lot of discussion
accurate
between the sessions. Some of which is reflected here, and some of which will kind of air out. It also means that we've already done a lot of this talking. So we're kind of like, I don't know, it's almost like you've missed an episode where we do the basic talk, and now we're doing the nitty-gritty talk. But yeah, almost everybody hates social rules. I don't think anyone liked the social rules in Pathfinder. I think we're all on the same page that those have got to go.
Yep.
Just like we did for Hy-Vee. And on the other hand, I think everyone loves that Pathfinder doesn't have stupid crowd control like 5e. I think that is the thing we most agree on, is 5e has a terrible crowd control philosophy, and Pathfinder's is better. And then the ancestors
you mean you just don't like it when sometimes you just don't get to play the game that you're trying to play?
Right. You love waiting like 45 minutes for your turn and then doing nothing? Is that fun? Is that cool?
Or you get to fight your allies. That's also sometimes
that
fun.
Can be fun.
Fighting allies is objectively fun.
Oh yeah, mind control is the best crowd control. Everybody knows it.
Still though, when you waste your whole turn on healing the boss though.
Lord. I don't know though, I'm into it. I don't think anyone is ever actually upset when you're mind controlled. Like, being mind controlled is the most fun crowd control. Alright. Overall, it's kind of a weird backwards flip here thing. If we were playing exactly by the book, and this one was a surprise to me, more people would rather play Pathfinder straight than 5e straight. It's not a huge difference, but it is notable. If we were playing exactly by the book, people hate 5e more than they hate PF2. Did not expect that.
To be fair, that's only because 5e is, actually literally unplayable as written.
Yes, correct. I hardcore agree with that. And the results show very clearly that, we all hate it. None of us wants to play either of these systems straight out of the book. So no matter what we're doing, we're homebrewing something. The question really is, how much are we homebrewing, and which system are we using as a foundation? Is it easier to take 5e and fix it, or is it easier to take Pathfinder and fix it? Or is it easier to, make our own system, or try World of Darkness, or something like that? And I'm going to jump over to that option real quick so that we can get it out of the way. Almost everyone is like, hell yeah, let's try some other systems. Let's try homebrewing a system. But then half of those people are like, but let's not do it for this campaign. Let's play test, and we'll come back to it later. So that's probably what we'll do. We will maybe be working on a little homebrew system on the side, or looking into Critical Role's new system, or World of Darkness, or the Gloomhaven system. And then for the next campaign, maybe do another playtest in one of those systems and see how it goes. Or do one-shots along the way.
My thought there was we can go through Pathfinder properly and actually see what we like and hate about it, rather than what we just hated in the playtest.
Right.
There were things I hated when I first played 5e, and then there were things I really hated as I got further into 5e.
Right.
So,
for sure. There's definitely things that and that's kind of where I've come before with 5e is the devil we know, and contrary to that on PF2e, there's probably shit about it that I complain about now that if I play for a year, I'll be like, I don't know why I ever cared about that.
Right.
But then there will probably also be new things that currently I'm fine with that we'll realize are fully broken and stupid.
Oh, absolutely.
When I first played 5e, a daily long rest made perfect sense.
Oh yeah. No, I hardcore agree with that. So I think I've played it the most except for Frisk. And the more I've played it, the more I've liked it, in spite of the fact that I have found more problems with it. So I echo what you're saying. I think the more that we play the system, the more we might realize that it's not perfect. It's not right for us.
I feel like the problems aren't as bad.
That's where I'm at too. And this is kind of the question, is which one of these systems is closer to what we want? The players, by a decent margin, think that it is easier to fix 5e than to fix PF2. It's not an absolute margin. I think we're off by 2 players, though. Several of the players think that it is just as easy to fix PF2, that PF2 is closer to what we want. And importantly, and I promise this will be the only time I do it, but I do think I deserve this one. The DM is the one who has to fix the system, and the DM thinks PF2 will be easier to fix. I don't know how many extra votes that counts for, but I feel like it counts for at least 1 or 2 extra votes.
I mean, I respect the hell out of that. As someone who wrote fucking 280 pages of ZE to try to fix 5e, like it took a lot of hours and time. So like, you're the one doing the legwork. So I get that. To me, I don't know. Like the problems with PF2e to me, they don't bother me as much as the problems with 5e do. Like 5e has some problems that you like have to fix, or the system is borderline unplayable.
Right.
PF2e's like they're not. I don't know. It's like the game's philosophy is like busted to me. Like I don't know. It's like I don't know if there's like nitty gritty like rules that need to be rewritten. It's like the central like philosophy of the design doesn't like jive with me, but I don't know.
And that's a thing that we have talked a lot about, that I'll just recap briefly for everyone else. We all kind of agree that Pathfinder 2 has a philosophy where you feel like you're slogging through nitty-gritty and pedantic challenges that 5e doesn't make you deal with. We joke a lot about how, like, oh, did you remember to use an action to breathe this turn? And it's not just the action. There are a lot of things in PF2 that feel like that. Like, they're really just overly pedantic, and it causes the game to feel a little more mechanical, a little bit of a slog, a little more overwhelming. And I think we're on the same page there. And I also agree that is a hard thing to just homebrew out. It's hard to homebrew out something that is like fundamental to the way the game is designed. The upside to that is that there is no wizards ruining the game in Pathfinder 2. 5e's problems are possibly easier to strip out and fix, but much bigger, much more like game-breaking if not fixed.
Yeah, I agree with that take. I agree with that almost verbatim. Yeah, I think 5e has worse problems, but I think that they're easier to fix. I think PF2's problems aren't as bad, but I think they're like nigh impossible to fix because it's like you'd be trying to rewrite the foundation of the game, you know?
Yeah.
Right. Like the design philosophy is the thing that's the problem, not the rules.
For sure. And I should also clarify, this is another thing that we've talked about plenty over in chat. If there's an overwhelming desire to house rule or like overall 5e instead of PF2, I'll do it. I can have fun with that. It's something I've wanted to do for a long time. I've seen you working on Wake. I've seen Zeke doing the Zeke edition. And I think it would be fun to do a FEC edition of 5e. I think mine would be more drastic than either of yours. I think that I would seriously gut some systems and rebuild them. Whereas a lot of what you guys have done is kind of just like content changes more than system changes. And part of me is very excited to try that. Part of me is a little scared because that's a huge undertaking and it could potentially invalidate a lot of the content that already exists. I think that the changes I make would be so sweeping that like marshals might have to be rebuilt from the ground up. There might be things that big and that drastic that I would have to do to make it work. And therefore it feels like more work to me than simply taking the things we dislike about Pathfinder and fixing them. But maybe not.
Can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs, as they say. Fuck whatever subclasses don't work for your overall.
True.
But then you lose flavor, and that's...
I know, I get it. It has, I will say it has been like, as time-consuming and insane amount of work as it was, it is also really fun to reimagine the things that I don't like about 5e and rewrite it for myself. Absolutely. It remains to see whether it holds up to even the most basic scrutiny and actual playtesting, but it's fun to, write.
Absolutely, and I don't think that, like, when I sit here, I'm going to say several times throughout the night that, like, oh, this would be hard to fix, or this would be hard to homebrew. But behind that, there's, like, I want to do it. I'm a game designer. I make games. I would love to go through and do my best to fix these systems. The main reason that I like, side towards the easier side is because we've already put this campaign off for, like, 3 months, and I'm dying to jump into it. And the longer I have to spend fixing the system, the longer it takes for us to actually get into the game, and I'm eager to jump in. And part of it is just that I'm excited to try a new thing, and Pathfinder is new. And that was another point that I think Jaeger brought up first, but we all kind of agree with, is like, even if it's worse, trying new things is fun sometimes, and we're not married to it.
Yeah.
We're just playing a campaign for a couple of years.
Yeah, the novelty is definitely, that's I really do enjoy the novelty of playing in a new system. Like, I'm like kind of on the fence on to where I vote, like one way or the other. I think I've aired a great deal of grievances against Pathfinder 2, but at the end of the day, I kind of don't care. I'm like good with either way.
Oh yeah,
but I do think like I forget what I was bouncing off of there. Oh yeah, just like the like doing something new is fun.
For
like
sure.
Just new spells and new classes and blah blah blah.
So anyway, jumping to like specifics real quick. We're assuming that we are either taking 5e or Pathfinder and fixing them. The next question is like, well, what do we fix? What are we changing? So there was a big list of all of the things that are different between Pathfinder and 5e and how we felt about the way that Pathfinder handled them. And there was more green than I expected. I was actually a little surprised, but that could also be because I subconsciously included a lot of easy choices and left out a lot of hard choices, which is why I left sort of an open text field for things that I forgot that you really don't like and added those in. There was definitely some low-hanging fruit here, like the counteract system, the crowd control philosophy.
Almost everything on this list.
There definitely were some softballs in there.
For sure. So what I did after I took all of this is I kind of broke them down into what it would mean moving forward. And what I mean by that is they're broken into categories. Like there's little gripes that we can easily fix. There's things that would be hard to fix. There's things that would be easy to move from Pathfinder to 5e, or things that would be hard. And unsurprisingly, a lot of the easy gripes that we have are easy to fix, and a lot of the big gripes that we have are hard to fix. Which means we can do a lot of polishing. We can do a lot of putting lipstick on a pig. But at the end of the day, if we're going to play Pathfinder, we have to make peace with map. We have to make peace with granular character building. We have to make peace with the technical writing. And we also need to come to agreements on the ones that we're like split down the middle on. And those, I think, are the really interesting ones. Let me pull it down here. There are a lot of things that we just all agree on. We don't like social rules, don't like subtractive feats, we don't like fancy and spellcasting. Almost unanimously. I'm one of, I think, 3 people that was cool with fancy and casting. And thankfully, that's like a super fucking easy fix. Like, it's wildly easy to just turn fancy and spellcasting off.
Yeah, for sure. I truly, from the bottom of my heart, I don't know how anyone can. It's indefensible to me. That is the only problem I have with PF2E, that I don't understand how anyone can even make a case for it. It's so stupid and bad.
Right. And you're not alone. I think it was actually the most disliked thing behind social rules. And subtractive feats are tied with it, I think. Anyway, the point is, you're not alone. I'm a weird little freak who likes fancy and spellcasting, and that's fine. I am not the one playing the game, so I am not married to it, and I'm fool to literally just rip it out and replace it with 5e style casting.
I mean, you also are a weird little freak who thinks that Bill Murray could beat Batman in 25 days or whatever.
Oh, boy. I thought about that. I prayed about that long and hard when I went to bed that night. And I think you're right. I think it is higher than 25. I don't think it's that much higher than 25.
No, man, your orders of magnitude off. It's a number of years.
So here's the thing. The point of Batman is that he has infinite prep time, right? But he doesn't have the time loop, so he only goes into it with the prep time that he already had before Groundhog's Day started. And his strategy can't evolve. Bill Murray only needs to orchestrate one accident, and it's over. And he demonstrates many times throughout the movie that he is capable of orchestrating accidents after just a few days of repetition. The taking coins from the bank. I don't know. There's so many things he does where he. What is that movie with Tom Cruise in it? Where he like is stuck in a death loop and has to like beat the aliens. Anyway, the point I'm making is I don't think you would need that many cycles to orchestrate an accident that kills Batman using his perfectly formulated but concrete strategy.
I think you're underestimating, and this is maybe a bit of a tangent, but that I mean,
you think?
This is a tangent off of the tangent we're already on.
Okay.
For us.
Sure.
I read a really interesting thing one time that was talking. Someone like did the math on like approximately how many like Groundhog Days Bill Murray had to have relived to like accumulate the skills that he accumulated.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that dude spent, decades in there. So, I don't know if it only took him a few days to orchestrate that bank heist.
That's fair.
And, what is there within, 12 hours travel of fucking Bill Murray's bed that he can even use to kill Batman? What is he going to get, a gun?
So that's what I'm saying. What time does Batman wake up in the morning? Unless Batman is awake at 8 a.m. when the radio clicks over, Batman can drive to wherever he is and blow him up in his sleep. I don't know. I think it's not that hard. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'm underestimating Batman. But to me, Bill Murray.
I don't think you're underestimating Batman. I think you're overestimating Phil Connors.
I might be. I see in my head, Phil Connors is it's like a Squirrel Girl with time, right? And Squirrel Girl can beat Batman for sure. We all know that because luck beats every other skill. And Phil Connors has infinite luck. He can push anything in any situation that he wants. Anyway, back to Pathfinder. Let's do this. I'm going to start with the things that we like, because that's more fun. Almost. So I say everybody likes. I'm going to add a little asterisk. Everyone except for the one little sliver of red, which I assume is Drake. Here are the things that almost everybody likes. Almost everybody likes that attacks of opportunity are a martial feature. Almost everybody likes that it is harder to grapple and drag things around. They like that spells are weaker across the board, that there's not as much game-breaking shit that wizards can do. This one kind of threw me off. Almost everybody likes the ready and delay mechanic. I figured there would be some pushback on that, but apparently everybody likes it, which is great, because I love it. I think it's great.
I don't like it. I'm a grumpy red boy.
Let me tell you, it's way better than anything that rearranges the initiative order at random.
Hey, man.
I do.
That's like a
boy.
No, I'm sorry. It's not fun to watch Cam get 2 turns and 6 legendary actions before I get my second turn. Sorry to watch. It's not fun to watch this fucking piece of shit fly around the map, casting 18 spells before I can even react. That was a wonderful fight, but fuck that. Fuck those dice. So
we
much.
all know that's what Patches would have done, though.
Yeah, because all Patches does is make every fight 2 times harder than it needs to be.
Absolutely.
Have you played the original Dragon Quest where you can get I think they're called a fool for your party, and all they do is random shit on every turn, including nothing?
Octopath has that too, the dancer.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is kind of a weird trope, but it is a common trope. It's there for someone, and I think we know who that someone is.
Yeah, we know who that someone is.
It's me.
We can all agree, though, that Gloomhaven has the best initiative system of any game ever made.
I do like it. I'm hesitant to go that far because I don't know about every game ever made, but
I'm willing to go that far, even knowing that I don't know every game ever made. Gloomhaven has the best initiative system of any game ever made.
Well, I'm pretty confident.
Class-based perception. Again, I expected a little pushback on that, but I think we're all into it. No legendary resistances. This one surprised me because we do mostly like it, as expected. I was expecting it to be unanimous. I can't imagine who these 3 people are that said that they don't like the lack of legendary resistances. I assume one of them is Drake, but I don't know. These were all anonymous. I would love to hear somebody defend to me why they think the legendary resistance system is good.
I think I might have voted against it because I'm like, 5E's AO resistances. If you get stunned, you're just fucked. And I'm like, yeah, I'm glad we don't have to deal with that. So I think I might have misinterpreted what I was supposed to put there.
Yeah, and there probably should be a margin of error, but I guess
I think I might have put dislike. I don't think I put hate.
Yeah.
I can't remember what I put.
Yeah.
But essentially, the it wasn't necessarily justifying or being in favor of legendary resistances, but I think PF2's equivalent of hiding the fact that your spells and abilities don't work on bosses in some fucking tab buried 8 pages deep is a lot worse than just an upfront, you need to get through this chunk of this wall and then you can
absolutely
do your spell.
Yeah. Let me tell you about how salty I was when I learned that some things I can't cast spells on.
Yeah. And that, I think, jumps back over to a thing that almost all of us hate, which is the weird technical writing where everything is buried in traits and tabs and other pages, and you have to learn to, does this have the incapacitation tag? I guess I should watch for that in every spell that I cast from now on.
Yeah. I guess I won't take any of these spells because I'll never use them.
Right. So that one was a bit of a surprise, but it does make sense if we view it not just as hating legendary resistances, but preferring them over the incapacitation tag.
Right, I was trying to interpret these a little less biased than they were presented.
That's fair. No, you're right. I'm a very biased observer here. Or not even observer, I'm a biased conductor here. So I'm trying to take all of this with a grain of salt. Ancestry feats, almost everybody like. Harsher fall damage, like flanking, we all like. Actually, because that surprised me a bit. I assumed there would at least be a couple of opponents to the flanking system. But nope, we're all into it.
I'm kind of like I think I put I don't care on that because I'm kind of anti-flanking, but I don't care enough to care. You know,
Sure.
It's
it just is.
I just always think flanking benefits the I don't know, the DM more than the players, generally speaking.
Fair.
I think in a system like this where everything is broken down to such piss, flanking is kind of mandatory.
Right.
Whereas in 5e, getting advantage from flanking is just like way too big of a buff.
Oh, absolutely. And it also invalidates a bunch of other things where the whole point is getting advantage.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's fine, but only out of necessity.
Sure. It wouldn't work in other systems or like ported to 5e. I think we all agree with that.
Yeah. At least not sticking to 5e's like advantage and disadvantage being your primary source of improvement.
Right. I think, actually, let me double check. The only thing that I didn't make an assumption about, and everybody was still, like, actually positive about, was the counteract system. Everybody was at least in favor of it, if not loving it.
I mean, I don't know how any of us put loving it since we didn't see it. But I'm taking your word for it that it's actually good. I didn't look into it enough to actually really speak on it, but you seem to be real horny for it. So, in spite of all of this, I will defer to your judgment on it.
It is wild that you trust me on this one.
Really, like, after some of the shit that we've been arguing about, it probably is, but
yeah, I was saying, like, didn't see it in action at all, but I was like, he likes it a lot and he knows things.
Fair.
Yeah, at the very least, it can't be as bad as I shouldn't say that.
It can always get worse.
Counterspelling in 5e is real bad, and I was like, could it be as bad as 5e? Probably, but I'll give it a shot.
Sure. I know we did do it at least once, but it might have been a session that you guys weren't in. So who knows?
The fact that things like poisons and diseases actually have levels associated with them is the thing that I enjoy about the counteract system.
Exactly. And that's a huge component of it, is the short version, the Cliff's Notes. It is impossible to counteract something more than 3 levels higher than you. And it is only possible to counteract something 3 levels or lower higher than you on a nat 20, or a crit, I should say. Normally, you can only safely counter something that is at least 1 level higher or lower than you. I explained that almost as poorly as the official rules did. The point is that it's very hard to counteract anything that's much higher than you. Which is cool. Granular Attunement, another one I expected pushback on. Didn't get any. There were some neutrals in there, but no dislike. Those are the easy ones.
Similarly, is something that I don't feel like we got to really see. So I'm like, I guess. I don't know how this works.
Yeah, true. There's some other things that we all liked that would be harder to port back to 5e. So everything I just listed, we could take all those things and just slap them in 5e. Super easy, almost no work required. It would be so easy to do it. Some of them would feel like buffs to marshals, some of them would be big nerfs to casters, but none of them would take me like months to do. I could do all of these in like an afternoon. These are a little bit harder. These would take several days, maybe a few weeks. Adding degrees of success to everything. Everybody liked that concept, but it would be a lot of work to do it for fucking everything in 5e.
And confirm, because I did it. I went through every spell, every class ability, everything, and added. Not everything got it. I didn't put every single thing. I only did crit fails. I didn't do crit successes.
Sure.
But like crit successes would benefit monsters more than players by a large margin.
Right.
And I didn't do it for every single thing, but even just like looking through everything and deciding if it needed a crit range and then doing the ones that did, it took 4 goddamn ever.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, that's because crit ranges suck.
No!
I kind of agree with. I don't love the crit ranges for every single possible thing, but I do like crit ranges for like some things, like for a hand, like especially for crowd control. But for me, was the big one. Like, you know, when I did it for 5e, like hold person. If you fail, you're just restrained. If you crit fail, you get paralyzed. You know, and stuff like.
Yeah, I think there's points where it could be useful, but I also think that it's a little bit tedious, and also the big thing, the most frustrating part of it, is that it really forces you to min-max at all points of time.
Right.
And I find that real shitty.
I mean, that's not really a problem if you just get good and start rolling better on dice. Also,
True.
So here's the thing I've learned about Drake. This is the Drake survey time that I'm putting together after knowing him for 9 years or however long it's been. Drake does best with consistency. Because if you give him swingy and spiky, he will dwell on the lows and forget the highs. Drake needs to play a class that doesn't rely on crits, that doesn't do a lot of die rolling, that just like very consistently does its thing every turn. I think that is Drake's happy place. And I think that is... part of me really believes that Pathfinder is better at doing that, except the Gunslinger. I think you shouldn't play Gunslinger. Please don't play Gunslinger. I feel like the fact that there are so fewer binary spells and effects in Pathfinder 2 means that there will be fewer turns where you do literally nothing. That's my take. I don't know if it's actually true, but I think it's true.
You can think whatever you want.
Other things that we really like but would be hard to port back to 5e, having bonuses instead of advantage and disadvantage. And specifically bonuses that don't stack to crazy levels. 5e already has bonuses. It has Bane, it has Bless, it has Bardic Inspiration, Regular Inspiration, Guidance, Resistance, Flash of Genius. It has all of these floating modifiers that you have to track all the time. The difference is that they all stack with each other and they don't have like a consistent formatting, which means it is it's the same juggling but without any of the structure to help you juggle. And then on top of that, they still have the advantage-disadvantage system, which is at its surface brilliant. I think all of us when we first learned 5e were like, wow, this is a super clever system. But then like we were talking about, the more we played, the more we realized that it is kind of a crutch, and it breaks after a while because so many things are leaning on the crutch of advantage and disadvantage that it all becomes very muddy. Things stop mattering because you get multiple sources that give you advantage that don't actually do anything. Flanking is a great example. We have experimented with flanking, and what we found is that suddenly a ton of martial class features just don't matter. Because all you have to do is stand next to them, and you're getting the exact same buff that you would from your feature. And it's hard to... It would be very hard. It'd be a lot of work to port that back over to 5e. It could be done. It would just be another several weeks of going through everything and fixing everything and converting it to modifiers. So that would be tough. Yeah, what's up?
I don't think the disadvantage and advantage thing is really that big of a deal in 5e. I think it's mostly fine.
That's fair.
Yeah, I was going to say...
I feel like that problem is overstated.
Yeah, I think Zeke's to a degree really right, because it's not like every turn we're sitting there with advantage banked. Like, I can't remember a single combat where we've had like advantage on every attack, or even half of the attacks that we've made.
Sure.
The big problem is that advantage gets stupid out of combat for skills.
Agreed.
Oh, absolutely.
I was about to say the same thing, yes.
Yeah, that's where it starts to become a huge issue. And I think it would be easier to implement some kind of some kind of granular bonus system to skill feats, and then still just maintain the advantage disadvantage during combat primarily.
Right. I hardcore agree. I think that it is less of a problem in combat. I think where it becomes a problem is out of combat with skill check. You can build a character to be incredibly good at one thing, but then if you have anyone at all who's willing to take the help action, it doesn't matter what you built your character for because they do the exact same thing.
This is really like neither here nor there, because it's not like we're ever going to change the number of people that we're playing with. But I also think that problem is greatly exagerated by playing at a table with like 9 players or whatever. If you sit with 4 players, you aren't stacking advantage on everything you do, because you don't, you have to fight, to give someone the help action on combat, you got to have the proficiency. And if there's only 4 players at the table, that's way less likely to happen,
Right, absolutely, yeah. You definitely run into more of the problem of like, okay, everybody does have a role that they have to fill if there are only 4 people at the table. Whereas with a group of 7 or 8, it's who can get to it first, and frankly, that's a lot of where our spotlight problems come from too, so who knows. Combat healing is another one. It's incredibly easy to just make healing stronger. I did it in the snap of a finger for crosswinds by just buffing cure wounds and making up a couple variants of it. The reason I've listed it as a bit of work is because it breaks so much shit to do that. 5e, and I know we've talked this one to death, 5e is just not built for healing to be good. 5e is a JRPG where you're draining resources instead of a game where you're doing like back and forth fights and every fight matters. So that would be tough to like make work without a bunch of overhauling. Also, I'll be right back just a second.
I obviously remains yet to be seen whether this actually works out in practice, but when I did my ZE thing, just ported a fuckload of PF2E's healing spells into 5e and like largely kept them as good as they are in 5e or in PF2. I don't know. Who knows? I don't know. It's probably going to break absolutely everything, but I also added like a healer's kit plus medicine proficiency, like mundane healing option, because I don't like that the only way to heal is magic.
Yeah.
Or the healer feat. And
Right. Yeah, I overhauled the healer feat and what a healer's kit does and what medicine proficiency does for you.
Yeah.
I felt bad that Patches was essentially just a mana battery in the Daimao fight.
Right.
Yeah, he was. There's not one other person in you guys' fucking party who like has a heal spell, I don't think, except Frog, but he was busy dying.
I have a great heal, but I don't have enough mana to spend it.
Yeah.
And that breath made me use my other 3rd level spell.
And that's kind of my complaint with it. It's not so much that healing is bad. It is, but that's an easy thing to fix. What makes combat healing tricky to work with 5e is that it's not about the action economy, although PF2 does that better too. It is about the fact that you're choosing between doing the heals and having fun. Healing in 5e just isn't fun, and it also consumes your entire turn, which is not fun. Nobody wants to sit there trying to decide, okay, am I allowed to have fun and cast a fireball, or do I need to do my job again?
I disagree.
Oh, I mean, that's fair.
If my 5 dedicate myself to the role of being the healer, I got no problem just healing on my turn. It feels good to heal on my turn. Like I did that on Pip a bunch. I spent whole turns healing on Pip, and I enjoyed every one of those turns. It was fun. It felt good to heal me and any of my friends.
Okay, that's fair.
I think it's fun when it's not all that you're doing.
Right, that's where I'm at too.
Well, that's what spiritual weapon is for.
I don't want to have to resort to that all the time. I want to do varied things, not one spell my whole life.
Well, fighters want to do more than swing their sword, and I wanted to do more than shoot my gun, but that's how these classes work.
Yeah, that's my biggest problem. Maybe not biggest, but one of my big problems with PF2E is like it feels like you can only do the one thing that you specialize in, because if you try to do anything else, you are going to crit fumble everything you do.
Sure. Yeah. Crowd control philosophy, another one. We're all unanimous. None of us likes how 5e handles it. It would be super easy challenge-wise to fix, but it would be a lot of time to go through everything and change how every crowd control thing works. And then there are things...
I don't think it's that hard.
I don't think it's hard.
Yeah.
I think it's just time-consuming.
Well, you
I
just
don't think
replace
it's
this.
time-consuming either. Like and I've done a lot of it. Like you might be surprised how actually few effects there are that do those crowd controls.
Right.
There's really not that many of them. They just are very pervasive because they're so powerful.
That's fair.
Yeah. Not only that, but you can just, instead of trying to change the individual effect, you just change the status condition.
So here's my take on that. And this might be spicy. I don't know if it's come up yet. If all you do is change the stun condition so it's worse, suddenly every time that you are spending an action to stun someone, there's an opportunity cost. It is no longer worth doing that, so you might as well have just taken stun out of the game. It's effectively what you did to Stunning Strike for monks. There's no reason to use Stunning Strike ever anymore.
Or you can just make it if they crit fail, they get stunned, and if they just regular fail, it's lesser.
Sure. And what I mean is, like, if all I'm doing is changing the status effects, now you still have to deal with the ripples of that. You still have to go through every spell that stuns, every effect that stuns, and say, is this still worth using? And if not, how do I either make it cheaper or make it better?
It feels like the 3-action system can do that, because if the status effects are weaker, they can take less actions.
Right. It's more granular. And it really, like, so many of these arguments boiled down to just, like, being a little more granular.
This is getting a little nitty gritty, but there's for real like fucking 3 things in 5e that stun. There's very few things that stun.
Yeah.
It's just.
I mean, I just
very
visit
powerful.
every single monster's stat block, but like as far as spells and class abilities, it's like stunning strike and power word stun, full stop. Like that's it.
Right. And yeah, that may be true. I mean, obviously, there's more things that paralyze. There's more things to. The frighten is a big one.
Yeah, frighten kind of sucks.
Petrify.
But again, I don't think, I should emphasize, I don't think this is a hard change. It's just time consuming to go through everything that normally crowd controls and figure out if it is still worth using post-nerf. And if not, what do you do? Do you buff it? Do you remove it? It's easy to just flip a switch and say that fear is half as strong. It's harder to know that the ripples of that aren't going to break certain classes.
Yeah, but the issue with that is that fixing Pathfinder is going to be so much more work because Pathfinder has content.
That's the thing, though. Like, I like, again, if you think it's going to be easier, you think it's going to be easier. But like, I don't see how the ripple effect would be better in PF2E, where there's 500,000 more rules. You know?
Right. And I could be wrong. Maybe I am totally wrong. But I don't know. I feel like even though PF2 has more content, it feels more resilient. Maybe that's false. Maybe it is really is the intricate engine that you guys perceive it to be. But where you guys see an intricate piece of clockwork that will break if you move a gear the wrong way, I see redundancy. I see modularity. I see that it seems like it should be easy to apply a change that hits everything equally, or pull something out that hits everything equally. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'll start digging into this and realize, like, oh, we should just do 5e instead. I don't know. I guess that's what we're trying to figure out. And probably will pretty soon, if I end up trying to tackle this.
Like, ultimately, you're the one who has to do the legwork, so it's up to you. But from my perspective, just from the player side, I think in Forge, I have, 71 hours of playtime? Plus, if at the very least double that in terms of just going through Aeon and PF2E tools and PDFs, building characters, learning the system.
Right.
I have gotten through, I think I know 2.5 classes fairly intricately, and that's it.
Right.
And that's not even getting into, like, spells and apparently all the items that I was supposed to buy according to Frisk. Like,
right.
Sorry, the game didn't fucking tell me that I needed a bunch of items to make my class work.
Oh, I am actually... we should jump off of that real quick. There's a variant rule that we didn't use in the playtest that, after having played, I think we will almost certainly use in our campaign, which is the automatic bonus progression, where it just gives you the effects of those items at the appropriate levels anyway.
Thank God, because that was some dumb shit.
Yeah, there's a rules as written variant rule where instead of having to juggle all of your runes and all of your potency and all of your armor potency and all of your striking runes, you just get it when you level up. And that also removes the unfair element of, like, a multi-pistol gunslinger having to spend 6 times as much gold as the wizard to keep their armor up to date.
Yeah, that felt like busy work. Like every level checking with you to see if there's something that was a mandatory for me to buy at this level, you know?
Right. And I know that there are, like, 2 or 3 inventory fetishists among us who will probably miss it, but I think that the simplicity is worth the trade-off there. And there are still plenty of other items to start perusing.
Yeah, as a licensed and certified inventory fetishist, I still would like to get rid of the busy work so I can focus on picking up fucking stilts and cowboy.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of an aside. I don't think I even mentioned it on the thing, but we will almost certainly use that variant if we go with Pathfinder 2.
Can we also use the variant where you don't add your level to shit?
There is a variant for that. And if people want to try it, we can try it for sure. What is it called? I forget what they call the variant, but that is literally one of the variant rules. It is pretty popular, maybe the 4th or 5th most popular, especially for people coming from 5e where they're used to bounded accuracy. I don't know how I feel about it just yet. So here's what you give up for that, right? You're pushing things a little bit back on the pendulum towards the wizard might be better at strength than the barbarian because they roll a 20 and the barbarian rolled a 4. The upside of adding your level to your proficiency is that the wizard can't be stronger than the barbarian just because they rolled well. And I love that. I love that a lot.
At 20th level.
True. Yeah, at 20th level. You're right.
Which, MMO fetishes, that's when the game starts and ends for everyone else.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're playing a dice game. Whatever, like, it's fine. Just like if the wizard rolls a 20, then like, cool.
Here comes a wild take, and I've thought about this for a while. I don't know if I've ever voiced it or not. Dexterity, sure. Dexterity is swingy. Int, swingy. Wisdom, swingy. Charisma, very swingy. Strength's pretty reliable. There's no such thing as rolling a 2 on a strength check in real life. You're as strong as you are all the time.
That's
objectively false.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That comes from somebody who has not tried doing any sort of cardio.
This sounds like a man who's not used a muscle in quite some time.
Okay, but listen. There is a world where an ugly, ugly man and the world's most beautiful man go into a bar. And the ugly man leaves with a girl and the beautiful man doesn't, because just things didn't line up, or there weren't, like, personalities weren't aligned. There is no world where a scrawny 6-year-old picks up a boulder that a 300-pound bodybuilder cannot. There is no world where that happens. It's not...
I mean...
It happened in Hercules.
It did happen in Hercules, that's right.
Gotcha.
He's got me there. I don't know. I don't know what this translates to mechanically, but I feel like if I was building a system, I don't know what I would do. I think strength would just have a tighter bell curve than the other checks, and I don't know why or how, but it just makes sense.
This is the wildest fucking take I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And I've heard some wild takes in this particular circle.
You guys will look back in 30 years and realize that I was a genius ahead of my time.
Okay.
Boy. Anyway, here are the things that we liked, for the most part, that would be nearly impossible to port to 5e. First, the obvious one, just tons of new content. I am not building... I'm not opening the floodgates of, like, you can use all of D&D Wiki. I'm not doing it. That's crazy. I'm certainly not building...
Well, that would be stupid.
Yeah. This one is almost a non-issue. Of course, I can't just magically make a bunch of new content show up. So that one we can scoot off to the side. There's no way that I can make tons of new content for 5e.
I'll push back slightly, very slightly on that. It did not take me a whole ton of work to copy, like, every spell that I liked from Pathfinder over to 5e.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's just, Pathfinder. It's not, every wiki in the world, but, like, I've read through every Pathfinder spell and picked my favorite, 50 of them, and you know how easy it is to translate shit to 5e. It's easy peasy because the game is so simple.
Right.
So that was easy. And and again, this is all with the giant asterisks that I haven't play tested any of this shit. But like even writing a summoner class for 5e, it was work. It took took some time, but it wasn't like, insane painstaking labor.
For sure. And I've made the Scrapper class. I've built classes for 5e. I've built ancestries. I've built spells. I've done tons of monsters. I don't want to present this as, I can't make new content for 5e. All I mean by this is that one of the things people are excited about with Pathfinder is that there is a whole new world of options. And I don't know if I would be able to have that whole new world of options ported over and ready to go without months of preparation and conversion. And we've already made it kind of clear, like, we don't want to wait months for this campaign. We want to start a campaign. Maybe when we do our homebrew thing, of course, but I just mean for this upcoming campaign, I don't think we can commit to that much of a wait.
I agree with that.
The proficiency more than D20 thing we already talked about. Hard to port to 5e. It's hard to make it so that proficiency matters more than D20 without some like pretty serious systemic changes. Which again, I think we could do if I was doing a full system overhaul, but it's not like I spend a couple afternoons just making the proficiency number bigger. That would break things. That would break things in a way that I couldn't confidently launch a campaign by just like saying proficiency is twice what it normally is. Plus 10, minus 10 crits. Again, easy, but time consuming. You have to go through every single effect and figure out what plus 10 and minus 10 is worth. Martial caster balance is the big one. I would have to rebuild every martial class, which sounds like fun, but it also sounds like 4 months of work. And then the 3 action system, which for the record, 0 people hate the 3 action system, which was a wild surprise to me. Several people disliked it. There were 3 or 4 people that disliked it, but nobody hated it. Everybody is willing to go along with it.
I'll switch my answer.
Thank you, please do.
I will say, like, I had trouble answering that question because it's a very complicated question.
Oh yeah, exactly.
The 3-action system entails a lot of shit. There is shit that I hate about the 3-action system,
Right.
such as movement, and so having to spend actions on piddly ass bullshit.
Right, and that was a huge complaint that almost everybody agrees on. It feels bad to waste an action remembering to breathe on your turn. Nobody likes that shit.
Yeah. Nobody wants to trip on their turn as a full action.
Right. Well, oh boy, we're gonna do this.
So, yeah.
I think trip is a perfectly reasonable action. Why wouldn't I spend one action to trip a monster? That sounds...
No, yourself. Falling prone is an action.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, falling prone should probably be free.
Yeah, absolutely outrageous. Yeah, that's fully outrageous.
Let me just go ahead and throw out here. I'm not even going to think about this one. If you elect me as president, falling prone will be a free action.
I appreciate that. That's great.
Good. Going limp shouldn't be that hard.
Through a coin be a free action too, because...
Oh boy. Okay. Now let's jump up to the things we dislike. Or wait, what you got?
He wouldn't commit to that. You hear the candidate wouldn't commit to an answer to that question. He deflected.
True.
Can we keep bitching about the 3-action system?
Yeah, hit me.
Cool. I think that it's potentially very good. I think Pathfinder just executes it really badly by being tedious and a pain in the ass.
For sure. And there was a comment that came through, and it's anonymous, so I don't know who. But the comment was basically, if you go to the grocery store and everything costs $100, then you're just going to get 3 steaks, even if maybe a pack of bugles sounds good.
Right.
And for the same reason, I don't want to spend an action to move. I don't want to spend an action to aim or take cover or raise a shield when I could just use 2 actions to cast a spell and 1 action to do a big fucking heal or an attack or something like that.
Hard agree. This game absolutely punishes you for doing anything outside of min-maxing your turn.
Sure. And I think, and here's where we're going to hit a disagreement, for sure. I think the action problem is solved by map. I think that map is an elegant and perfectly great response to why don't I just attack 3 times a turn.
Because I can hit 3 times even with map.
Right.
Sometimes, yeah.
Right. Like that's the thing, is that it's still better to take a map attack than it is to take a chance at, a demoralize for a +2 on 1 attack.
Yeah, it's you get like the worst of both worlds. You it's like, well, I still strategically have to use my action to make this map attack, and I'm going to get punished for it. Like I choose my punishment. It's either get punished for making the attack that I want to make in the form of map, or get punished in the form of I'm taking a strategically bad action because I don't want to deal with map.
That might or might not work, and
right. It's like,
is only actually going to make a difference. Yeah, and it's only going to make a difference 1 out of 10 times that check even worked.
Right.
So it's like, it's a shitty system. It's genuinely the worst part of the system. They should just say you can only make an attack once per turn, and then increase that as you level up.
Sure, which is essentially what 5e does.
Right.
That's interesting. So here's my response to that. I've got 2 responses. We'll do the one that you dislike first, and then we'll do the one that I think you will like. Here's the bad response. I think that as we play this game more, we are going to adapt to the way they expect us to play, but don't say overtly we should be playing. And I think we will start to learn when it is worth map attacking and when it is better to do a demoralize or some other shit. I think that the more we play, the more we're going to see, I demoralized last turn and 2 people crit instead of not critting, and that was worth it. That was worth doing. That's one of the reasons that I installed the mod that highlights when a modifier makes a difference, is because it does a lot more than you think it does. I think that as we play more, we will internalize that.
That mod is so... Oh, God. It provides false information.
What? What do you mean?
What do you mean? It is highlighting the fact that a bonus helped, and yes, a bonus is going to help a lot over the course of, for 100 rolls or whatever.
Sure.
But when there are 100 bonuses being thrown out, that is going to increase that. If I use my action to demoralize,
right,
that action that I have spent is only actually going to make a difference 5 to 10% of the time.
Right.
That specific action.
Sure.
Some other modifier might be getting its 5 or 10% time that it worked.
Sure.
And like that's like me demoralizing something is going to be much worse than, you know, the bard doing a buff that is hitting multiple people all at once.
Fair. Yeah, okay, that's fair. I don't
Like,
know.
I want my ability to feel cool. I don't want to use the thing and then see it not work 95% of the time.
Sure.
Yeah, I think you need to install the thing that also highlights every time your modifiers didn't matter.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Like,
yeah, no, that's a completely fair.
like, how many times have I wasted an action accomplishing literally nothing?
Sure. So now we're gonna drive back to the psychology thing, but let's drive there slowly. The response to that is, was your failed intimidate that didn't actually help? Would it have been better for you to have taken a map 10 attack? And I think that the odds are similarly dismal. And now I understand that the response is, why are both of these options dismal? Why
right, exactly. You said it for me. Why are both of my options shit?
Right. And
it feels so bad to do either of the two things that I can do.
And I think that the response to that is, as we get more familiar with the game, we're going to learn what the not dismal third action is. I think that is the whole point of Pathfinder, is how do you improve your third action? How do you find something that is the most useful to do with your third action? Because attacking
get to 20.
Well, maybe. It certainly gets easier at higher levels.
The other thing that I despise about the 3-action system, as I've mentioned over in Twitch chat and to you guys 8 zillion times, is that anything that requires 3 actions is unusable, like fully unusable, because you can't position to use it. So, like, if you have a 3-action spell and it requires any sort of like having a creature in range or affecting an area of effect, it's truly unusable. It makes me insane.
Boy, I did 3-action heals on bones all the time. So you have to get good. You have to position ahead of time.
I think in our 13 session campaign that we just did, I was able to successfully 3-action heal once, without, and even that had to heal some enemies. Like it's dumb. If I need to take if you need to take a 5-foot step towards something to then use your 3-action attack on it or whatever, it's bullshit.
Right, and the solution is get a mount, because everybody just needs a mount in this system.
Or the acrobat feat,
which is stupid.
Or like there's so many ways to bake movement into other actions. It's like one of the most common features you can find in a class or an archetype.
But you can't do that with 3 actions.
Yeah.
You can't bake anything into your 3 action because this game doesn't stack anything.
Sure.
You just get a new 2 action that happens to include some other shit in it.
Right.
Like, it's infuriating that nothing stacks in this game, because there's so much shit that's like, oh, this would be really cool to use in conjunction with this, and it's like, nope, you can't do that.
It's all lateral growth and not vertical integration.
It's not even lateral growth. It's just a new card in a deck that I already could do in a different situation. Like,
absolutely, so much of it feels like you well said.
That's
like a card in a deck.
I hear what you're saying. I'm still going to stick to my guns. I'll die on this hill. I think as we learn the game better, we're going to find better ways to get around that. Like you said, maybe you take them out, or maybe you ready an action to move right before your next turn so that you are in position to use a 3-action heal. Or maybe you get a battle master who lets you use your reaction to move to get where you need to be for your 3-action heal. Like there are so many ways to either pick up a feat for yourself or work with your team to make these big plays happen. And that's one of the things that I love about PF2 is it's hard to do things on your own, but it's easy to work with your team to make big plays happen.
Yeah, but also like in the format that we're playing and in the size of group that we're playing in, like spending a turn setting up somebody else to do their big thing or whatever is like an hour and a half of my night, you know? Like it sucks to like not be able to do the cool thing that I want to do on my turn because I get one every hour, you know?
Sure.
And that's not a problem with the system. That's a problem with playing tabletop games with 14 people.
Yeah.
But that's just where we're at.
Okay, that's fair. For the record, I'm going to eventually just pull us free of this because we have argued this for literally 2 months, and I know we're not going to like magically change minds here tonight.
Yeah, we're not treading any new ground right now. We have said all of this before.
We are 100% rehashing. Granular character building, we've already... Again, this is another one we've rehashed. This one is more positive than I was expecting. Everyone is kind of in agreement that there's a fuck ton to sift through, and a lot of it is kind of iffy, which makes building a character harder. But I think also we all kind of understand that, like, this game is more complex than 5e. We'll learn it as we go. And racing through 10 levels over the course of 2 months was probably not wise for the playtest. I think there's at least a little optimism that starting at level 1 and moving at a reasonable pace is going to make it easier for us to build these characters. And the same is true for the technical writing. We can't change that. There's nothing we can do about the technical writing. But it's also a thing where just as we play more, we're going to get good, and as we move slower, it will get good. So those are the 3 sticking points. Those, I think, are the 3 big things that we're going to disagree on and cannot change. The biggest one of those being map.
I'm glad that I was here to hash over those points. I must depart now.
All right.
Godspeed, you all.
Godspeed.
Thank you for being here.
Of course.
And I will assume
Best of
that you
luck.
basically +1 most of what Drake says, not everything.
Most, but not all, and with like less enthusiasm.
Yeah, a little less salty about it.
But for the most part, Drake, continue to fight the good fight, my friend.
You had a better experience with Summoner than I did.
Yeah, Summoner fucking rules. Summoner is awesome. I love Summoner to death.
Hell yeah.
Okay, bye, guys.
Bye! I really do mean this with all my heart, and I know I've said it a million times. I wish to God that I had not encouraged you to try Gunslinger. Hello! Hi, how are you?
We have our replacement.
We're fighting.
You're going to agree with everything that I say, right? Jake?
I don't know. Maybe. Who knows?
We were just talking about, so we're basically going through all of these features and seeing which ones are easy to fix, which ones are hard to fix, and also just rehashing the same arguments that we've had for 2 months straight. And we had just gotten to the section on things that we all dislike that are easy to fix. One of those is Vancian spellcasting. We can turn that off with the flip of the switch. It's super fucking easy to just homebrew that away. The question is, that's going to change balance. Casters will be stronger. Are we okay with that? And I think that most of us are on the same page where D&D is way too high power, especially caster. Pathfinder is a little low power. Things feel tough. It feels like you're slogging through even basic tasks. And
Yeah, Pathfinder is no power.
Yeah. And most of us agree we're looking for something in the middle. And this, I think, these 3 are going to be where we bump towards the middle. We can make spellcasting less punishing by just turning off Vancian spellcasting. Is that going to make the game different? Is it going to change balance? Absolutely. The players are going to be stronger because of it. And I think that's just kind of what we want. It will probably have to tweak a little along the way. We'll have to make adjustments. We'll have to make changes. We might have to start doing CR +1. But it's not going to this isn't a difficult change where we have to rewrite core components of the game. We just flip it off.
Oh, cool. So we're buffing casters and also punishing gunslingers even more?
Well, with that one rule, yes, but don't you worry, we're getting to it. Subtract defeats, again, easy. First, so I'm going to jump to subtract defeats later. The short version is, if we run into any real ones, we'll fix it, and I think most of what we interpret as subtract defeats are not. The rules are written poorly. It's technical writing. Social rules, we're all on the same page on. Nobody likes the social system in PF2, just like we don't like it in 5e. We're going to ignore it. We're just going to pretend it doesn't exist. Now, in 5e, you just do that and everything still works. In Pathfinder, what do we do with the diplomacy tree, the deception tree, and the intimidation tree? We keep the ones that still work, and we make new ones to pad out the tree to work with a looser social system. That is some homebrew. That is some work for sure. But, it's maybe 35 new feats instead of a brand new system. I am confident that I can sit down in a week and I can come up with a new skill tree for deception, diplomacy, and intimidation. I'm very confident that that is within my realm as a DM. So those are the easy changes. Turn off spellcasting, turn off social rules, and deal with subtractive feats as we find them. Here are the ones that we disagree on that would also be easy to fix and ignore, but we need to decide, again, are we willing to do these changes because they're going to change the balance of the game. Ranged versus melee is a little one. Not many people feel strongly about this to begin with, but I threw it on here because we are technically split a little down the middle. Ranged weapons don't normally get dex to their damage. It would be super easy to adjust that by simply adding your dex to the damage, or half your dex to the damage, or whatever. This really only matters at low levels, or at least it matters most at low levels before you get your striking rune. If we were to change it, it's a huge buff to all ranged martial classes, including gunslingers. But that might be interpreted as a nerf to martial melee. Is it ever worth picking up a greatsword when you can do the same damage with a gun from 100 feet away? This is just something we would have to talk over as a group, decide if it's worth it, how we feel about it.
I think if you bridge the gap a little bit and buff them a little bit, but didn't put them on par with melee, it'd be fine.
Right.
Do like that 1.5 instead of ×2 or whatever.
Yeah.
You also don't have to reload your greatsword, so.
True. Which brings us over to how shields work and stricter item interaction. This largely addresses the issues that we have with the 3-action system, where tiny, pathetic little things that take a full action but feel like they shouldn't are extremely annoying. Having to draw a weapon, having to raise a shield, having to reload a gun. All of us understand that that is a huge balance issue. If we make it so you get 1 free reload per turn, gunslingers just got like 35% better. Are we cool with that? Is that on par with removing Vancian casting? I'm of the opinion that removing Vancian spellcasting is maybe like a 10 to 15% buff for casters, and giving a free reload every turn is like a 30 to 40% buff for gunslingers. That's a huge buff. Am I cool with doing it? Maybe, probably. We're trying to get more powerful all around. The question is not so much, is this a huge buff? Because the answer is obviously yes. The question is everybody getting roughly the same amount of buff? And by giving everybody 1 free interact per turn, you buff crossbow users, gun users, shield users, consumable item users, which I think might include alchemist. I'd have to look into that, but I am under the impression that they need a buff anyway. And if we end up realizing that it's super broken, we can tweak it. We'll go back on it. Range unit to pull free interactions provide that recharge like focus spells. I'm into that. So here, let me jump over a bit. I'm gonna skip ahead. I'm fast forwarding, and then we'll come back. The right side of the screen is kind of just a list of propositions for homebrew that we could use to potentially fix the issues that we hate the most. And one of them over here in particular is quick hand. I don't know if this would be a baseline rule that applies to everyone. I don't know, maybe it would be a general feat. Maybe it would be like a feat, you get to choose a couple of these, but you don't get all of them. That way marshals are still better at using items than casters, something like that. But the basic idea here is that you just get 1 free action at the start of every turn that you can only use to interact or raise a shield. And originally I'd written like a whole thing, like, if you're an expert in dexterity, then you get to do this for free a certain amount of times, and if you are a master, you get more or whatever. And if we want to break it down that granular, you can, but I think we should get like a baseline before we start breaking it down that granular. I think we should be dipping our toes in before we commit to doing extremely detailed breakdowns. But yes, to answer your question, that is one way that we can still make marshals feel martial, is by making them better at these new homebrew rules that we have. Movement is the big one. We are extremely split up. It's not just that we're 50-50, it's that we're pretty strongly 50-50. Some of us love it, some of us hate it. We already know what side I'm on.
Who loves it other than you?
You're right.
Who else is a little freak?
I say love, it's just light green. So maybe I'm just we're all dramatically outnumbered. A lot of people have a very big problem with how finicky and punishing movement is. And I get it. We've already talked this to death, so I'm not going to linger on it too long. I believe that we're all just used to 5e, and I think that 5e is incredibly liberal with movement, in a way that makes movement almost kind of meaningless. There's no point in shoving something prone because it's just going to stand back up. There's no point in running from a boss because it's just going to chase you down. There's no point in face tanking because the enemy is just going to walk around you. I really love and appreciate that when you move up to an enemy and attack, you're stuck there. That is by design. It is by design that you can't save 10 feet of movement and walk away for free. It is an investment that you make when you choose to get up in front of something and attack it. But I've argued about this for 3 months. I'm dramatically outnumbered, and I'm willing to cede on it. If it is a thing that I do for me, but it is super easy to change, and if we're outnumbered, then we can just do it. The way we do it is incredibly simple. We just switch to 5e rules. If you have leftover movement at the end of a move action, it gets put in a stockpile, and you can use a free action later to use the rest of that movement. I think that on its own would be a little too powerful. So I think if we do that, we should do something like this golden bit here, where that movement triggers AOs even if the creature doesn't normally have AOs. I don't think that people should be able to walk up to an enemy, hit it, and walk away totally unfazed. I think that is a step too far. Even if we do add flexible movement, I think there should be some sort of a commitment when you get in melee range of something. But this is super flexible. We could make it so like Dex characters can do it more easily, or you can take feats to do it more easily. There are ways that we can tweak this as we go.
Wait, so maybe I'm missing exactly how you explained it, but the way I was trying to figure out any sort of solution to this, I was thinking, well, if you just need that last 5 feet, you could subtract 5 from your next turn. It's like you have a bar.
You can borrow it.
Instead of stockpiling for like, I saved up like 10,000 movement. I'm going to go to the moon real quick, be right back. I don't know if that'll work out, but
boy, that is
just have like a max movement per round or per turn that you could possibly do. But you need that extra 5, -5 to your next.
Wild. So you'd effectively be borrowing against yourself on the following turn.
Yeah.
That also would fix the 3-action spell problem a lot. This is a huge buff. We all understand that it's a huge buff. Anything we do is going to be a huge buff here. This, again, we are actively looking to make PCs more stronger. We're aware that these are going to be big buffs, but does it affect everyone equally?
And it might make it more overly complicated, but like say you can only take that like half of your next turn's movement or something, like cap it at a lower quantity.
Sure.
So
like,
you can't zoom around like a map.
I would be tempted to just make it so you can like borrow one of next turn's actions to move. And then on your next turn you get one fewer action.
That I could also do it. Stay more in line with the system instead of a new resource in a way.
Right. Instead of having to like keep track of a stockpile of movement, you're just borrowing an action against yourself. Interesting. The knee-jerk response is that everybody on the last turn of combat, if they know they can go for the throat, will borrow that 4th action to take 4 actions on their final turn.
Right.
With
item bar or with health bars visible, that's just what we'll do all the time.
Sure. It'll be too easy to like go for the throat. I like where it's coming from. I feel like it would have to be tied to a resource. It couldn't be free. Or a cooldown or something along those lines. It is elegant. I do like elegant, but I think it might be stronger than we're looking for.
I think the flexible movement thing without the gold is fine.
Flexible movement without the gold, so you can just move away from things that don't have AOs.
Yeah.
Boy, that doesn't feel too strong to you?
In this system, no.
Okay. These nitty-gritty, like, here's the actual text of the house rule we're using. These I will throw on chat and get, like, actual votes on. Specific changes like this we should go over in more detail. I'm kind of just throwing a preview on it. But yeah, I dig it. My take is that feels too strong, but again, I understand that I'm a little freak about movement, and I want movement to be punished at all times.
Right, they can already trick me. It's...
Alright, I dig it. So anyway, those are the 4 that are, like, we all disagree on them. They would be easy to fix. The question is just how much do we want to fix them? How much do we want to change? We would have to all kind of meet in the middle and decide how much stronger do we want movement to be? How much stronger do we want shields and guns to be? Stuff like that. And then there's little gripes that we all kind of agree on that are also easy to fix, like the surprise condition. Super easy to just make a surprise condition. Weak and silly feats, it's super easy to just ignore weak and silly feats, and it's also fairly easy to take the trees that are super weak and pad them out with new feats, which I'm already going to have to do for social skills anyway. I would probably also do it to, like, knowledge skills, the magic casting skills. I feel that they're a little bit iffy at low levels. Combat skill feats, I think, are fine in general. I think that all of, like, the acrobatics and the athletics feats are, frankly, pretty fucking strong, even at low levels. Thievery is fine. Stealth is fine. It would mostly be, like, the social and the knowledge skills that got padded out. Boy, that kind of covers everything. Or at least everything from the survey. Let me go read through the list and see if there's anything people wanted to bring up that we didn't already bring up.
Yeah, what were the fight topics?
Yeah, let's see these fight topics. We already did the Bill Murray one, or the Phil Connors one. Responses. Alright. Groundhog Day. We already did. Movement, spell preparation, base penalties, bonuses from feats. Got it. Okay, so here... boy, this one's tough. This one is tough because it would be a huge, like, system overhaul. It would dramatically change the game in ways that... Simply giving everybody an extra interact action per turn is an easy change that makes things stronger across the board, but doesn't necessarily mean you have to go revise everything in the game. Somebody brought up the idea of splitting your 3 actions back apart like 5e did, so that you have a couple of real actions and like 1 interact action or 1 move action or something like that. Essentially turning PF2 back into 5e. On the one hand, it solves a lot of problems. It solves the problem of not wanting to take a dismal third action map instead of doing an Intimidate. If you're only allowed to do a shitty action with your third action, then it doesn't feel as bad to do a shitty action. The problem with this is like, oh, now suddenly it's literally impossible to do a 3-action spell. It is literally impossible for witches to cackle and keep a 4th spell up. I don't know. I understand where they're coming from, but I think that it is a bridge too far. I think it's too much work. We might as well just be building a homebrew system at that point.
That's already what I'm doing, so.
Right. And maybe that is the answer. Maybe we just need to make fucking homebrew system or some shit. Boy. Somebody suggests getting naked and doing karaoke.
Biscuit.
Because somebody else is... Actually, I think I know which one's Biscuit, and I think it's a serious one. Somebody asks how fuckable everyone's C3 character is. And I'm gonna run down the line here. Let's go. Boy, let's see, where is it? Sidro, 7. Crackers, 10. Cress, 8. Kingdom, 4. Jaeger, we don't know yet, but I'm guessing 7 or 8. Frisk, 5. Zeke, 3 or 4. Neo, 8 or 9. Drake, we don't know yet, but I'm guessing probably 6 or 7.
I mean, if I go back with Brig, apparently vary, according to
True.
all the commissions I've gotten.
Lord, absolutely, yeah.
Wait, are you saying the high numbers are good or bad?
High numbers is very fuckable, yeah.
Oh, Cider's doing 180.
Oh, yeah.
You know what, Bob?
He's not playing Bobble again, that's for goddamn sure. Oh, I did call you Crest, didn't I, Philo? Yeah, I think I put you at 8. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so there were 5 specific suggestions for things we should talk about during this roundtable. We've already talked about the 2 that were real, and the other 3 were just jokes. So there we go, we did it. Let me read through favorites and least favorites. A lot of people, when they asked what is the thing you like most about PF2 or the thought of doing PF2, several people just like the novelty of doing a new system. And frankly, that resonates a lot with me. I know it resonates a lot with Zeke. I think that a lot of us are willing to experiment with something that we might end up disliking, just kind of for the fun of seeing what a new system is like. And if we do end up using PF2, that's probably that will be like the tipping point for it. What else? What else we got? A couple people noted that they liked healing. I'm glad. I really like it as somebody who enjoys well done healing. I think this system does a great job with it.
Oh, can we talk about how terrible the healing in the system is?
Sure, let's do it. What do you not like about it?
I don't like how swinging it is. I don't like that feeling of going from 0 to 100. Especially at 5th level, where somebody's just like, here's a mundane heal that will double your max health with no issue.
That's fair.
That it just feels like, well, what's the point of this HP bar then? If it's either full or empty and there's no in between.
Sure.
And that basically means it means nothing to me.
Right. I have a lot of thoughts about this. First is that I can see where you're coming from. I think you feel the same about healing the way that I do about 5e's movement, where it's so easy to bounce back that it kind of didn't matter in the first place. Although I do think a core distinction there is that movement in 5e is free and healing in PF2 is not free. It takes
It's
action.
free.
It takes actions, at least, whereas movement does not. I also think, okay, we're going to dip into territory that we have talked to death, so I won't linger too long. I think you and I just kind of have different ideas of what a health bar actually means. In my mind, a health bar is basically just a stamina bar. Your real bodily health is represented by the wounded condition. If you're at 1 HP, your body's fine. It just means you're winded. It means you're weak. It means you're weary. Your shield is drooping. Your armor is a little banged up. I don't imagine somebody at 1 HP as being bruised and bloody and on the verge of death. I don't like that. But I have a lot of very little freak opinions about what health bars actually mean and whether they should exist in the first place.
I might have been able to feel that way if you hadn't killed me on the first session. So, unfortunately, I gotta tell you that your HP bar is very much your HP.
So, okay, I do have to do this one. We've talked about it a little bit off stream, but I want to reiterate just in case it didn't come up on stream yet. For those first couple of sessions, I was balancing encounters at CR plus 3, because that's what you do in 5th edition. Turns out that's not what you do in Pathfinder. The CR system in Pathfinder means business. A moderate encounter is a moderate encounter. It should be your normal encounter. If you make a severe encounter, it is going to be severe, and that is especially true at low level. If you introduce a boss at CR plus 3 to a level 1 party, you're going to instantly kill several of your players.
Especially severe for Drake and I. It's just
Also,
True.
Also, you don't fucking do that in 5th edition either. Not at first level.
Boy, maybe not at first level, you're right.
You explicitly don't. Like,
Yeah.
even low CR characters with a bad crit can
Right.
fully instant kill characters.
Like
in
a bugbear can
first
just
edition.
insta-gib a level 2 wizard, yeah.
Yeah. Like,
No, that's fair. That's a problem that both systems have, and that was, so what I'm trying to say, I balanced that poorly. That was a huge mistake on my part. I want to, the jury will disregard what happened to you with that shark. I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I know that
But
the
I
jury
won't.
will not actually disregard it. They will remember it for all time, and I
I'll
wish I could tell you
remember
that.
it forever.
Yeah.
It is negatively tainted, in my opinion, of the system.
It has. So, yeah, that and playing a gunslinger, which, again, I also encouraged you to do and probably should not have.
But to be fair, even before that, I was already checked out of the system just from building a character. Like, building a character in the system is a fucking nightmare.
Oh, I love it. See, this is where it's just a difference in opinion. I love the granularity. I love reading 14 encyclopedias full of feats, even though half of them are meaningless. I love that shit.
I can't stand that shit. I think the big thing also for me, just building a character, is in 5th edition, you have your starting point, and then it creates like spokes that kind of branch out.
Sure.
And in PF2, it's more like a web, so you have these points that all end up connecting to weird points again.
Right.
So you have like multiple paths that all lead to the same thing, but some of those paths are really shitty and some of those are less shitty.
Sure.
And finding that path to get to that one thing that you particularly need is frustrating as hell.
Right.
It's miserable.
That's fair.
Especially since there's no like way to look up any of this stuff or figure out what you need.
If only you could see the web. It'd be glorious.
Absolutely. And I
Web
think
developers out there.
And the thing that Jaeger's brought up several times is, you go on Twitch, there's 100 people playing D&D, and you can watch their streams and say, oh, that character's cool, how are they doing that? Where's that feat? I want to learn that spell. That doesn't really exist for Pathfinder. It is starting to, it is ramping up, but it's, for people who learn about a system by watching other people play, there just aren't as many places to do that yet for Pathfinder. It's harder to watch and learn, to monkey see, monkey do in this system compared to 5e.
Because it's a bad system that isn't good for streaming or playing.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy, Drake. You and I like peanut butter and nails. Oh, what else?
What kind of nails?
Finger.
Okay.
What else we got? What else can we do here?
Well, what's the final verdict? What are we playing?
The final verdict is that I'm going to first shoot out these proposed homebrew things to see so that people have a more realistic idea of what an overhauled PF2 might look like. I don't want people to have to vote for something without really knowing what they're voting for, right? So I'm going to present, like, here's what PF2 would look like if we did play it. Would you rather do that or 5e?
Okay.
We have some time here because AC's coming up. I have a flight in, like, 8 hours. So we'll have time to kind of, like, talk this all over, pick a system, vote on it. It'll probably be a couple of weeks before we decide for sure. And then we get to come up with characters and build characters and potentially port characters back over to 5e if we end up using 5e. And then I need to, like, you know, actually prep a campaign. Because that's a thing I have only just started. I'm going through the like freeform responses to see if there's anything else that didn't get brought up.
Just to touch on the novelty and like character creation.
Yeah.
For C3, I think most of my ideas are currently coming from a lot of that like PF2 novelty.
Sure.
So it's like, you know, the gunslinger and the summoner are the classes that are like new and different and are the things that I want to try. And boy, it's just so upsetting that they suck.
Well, the gunslingers suck. Summoner's fucking awesome.
It's mediocre at best. But I mean, mediocre is like very good in Pathfinder 2. So
yeah, okay. So one, you're not wrong. B, I love that. I love a lower power system. I love. I don't know. To bring up a thing that we talked about during the movement discussion, the idea of this 70-year-old wizard running around bunny hopping in the middle of combat, that should be a martial thing. The wizard shouldn't be bunny hopping around the middle of the field at full speed casting spells. Like, I don't know. I think I like the struggle. And most games work like that. 5e is unique in how liberal it is by making people feel powerful. Most games make you choose between moving and acting or drawing a weapon and acting. Like,
oh, I did have a counter to that.
Hit me.
To your movement thing, because I know you brought up Divinity a bunch.
Yeah.
And we both enjoyed Divinity. Divinity's got a great system.
Oh yeah.
It's a great system because it's quick and you don't have to wait an hour and a half to do a second turn.
Right.
But Divinity actually has the granularity to calculate how far you are moving and remove that from your action economy. It's not like I have used a full action to move 10 feet. It is you use one of your 6 actions to move 5 to 10 feet.
I mean, you're not wrong, but it does still have the same problem where if you take a 5-foot step, that's even if you move an inch, that's one action. And they let you do up to 20 feet for that first action. But
True, but it's more granular than that.
True. Yeah, it is even more granular than Pathfinder. You are right about that for sure.
And that's why it works out. I will say that Divinity does have some issues, but most of them are just interface issues.
Sure.
Wait, if you can remind me on Divinity, if you were to not... I remember the actions actually floated over to the next turn, so if you didn't do something...
True.
Also true.
True. Yeah, maybe.
Right.
So maybe instead of... Okay, this is... So I brought up a thing earlier for when we were having the talk about 3-action spell. I mentioned that, you could get a mount or you could take acrobat, but another thing that you can theoretically do is ready a stride before the start of your next turn. We can buff that. We can make it so that, like, if you are specifically readying a stride, it only takes that one action. Like, you can ready a stride for a single action. It is a buff. It's a power improvement for sure, but, like, I don't think that breaks a lot. I think it makes it easier to do mobility-related stuff while having a minimal ripple on the rest of the system. So it'd be kind of like the borrowing, but instead of borrowing ahead, you're saving for the next turn. You have to do it ahead of time. You have to think ahead and say, I'm going to save my move for next turn, and then next turn you have that move plus your normal 3 actions.
And remind me, in the system, I don't know if we ever really tried it or used it or asked about it. Is that a thing that happens in Pathfinder, or if you just don't do anything on your turn, you lose all 3 actions?
So you have a couple of options. You can delay your whole turn totally for free, and the only penalty is that your initiative permanently changes to the new spot. Or you can ready an action, but it takes 2 actions to ready 1 action. So you're losing action economy to ready an action. And then if you like on your turn, you get 3 actions. If you only use 2 of them and you just straight up can't think of anything to do with your third action, you just lose it. Yeah. And with the proposed homebrew, you could save your third action and move on your next turn with it, I guess. Which certainly would be. It's good. It's a very strong action. It would be one of the best new things that you could do with a third action for sure. But I don't know.
But it does encourage people to actually move around and do things, though.
Absolutely.
So flexibility there.
For sure. It is a buff that directly solves one of our biggest problems with the system while having minimal impact on other systems. I actually really like this. This is good.
I think it'll make it easier to have a bunch of enemies spread out, too, because we can actually use movement to get to them.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Damn, that's clever. Damn, Divinity Original Sin. Damn. Huh. Okay, anyway, when I send out the list of proposed homebrew, I'll make sure that that's listed as an option. I really like that. That's fun.
Why don't we just play Divinity?
Do they have a tabletop system?
I wish they did. I don't think they do, but they should.
It is a good system. I'm imagining in my head what a Divinity system might look like. It's hard to judge, right? Because Divinity is explicitly like a combat sim that happens to have some dialogue options. There's not there's no scrying in Divinity Original Sin. That would just be a cutscene. I would be. Most of what we do when we play Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder or whatever is not combat. 90% of our time is dicking around, role-playing, or, like, exploring, or learning, or researching, or snooping. And Divinity doesn't really do a lot of that isn't just a dialogue window and a cutscene. So I would really want to see, like, what does a mage do when they want to spy on somebody? What spells are at their option? What can they do versus a rogue?
Divinity is also very hard baked into the idea of having a lot of, like, terrain effects, and that would get very difficult to manage, I think.
For sure. Oh, Lord, yeah. I will say, they did it better than Guild Wars. Guild Wars 2 tried to do the whole, like, oh, you set a patch of oil over here, and then you set it on fire, and then you blow it with wind, and I think Divinity does a better job with that system.
Yeah, it's so good.
I'll say, I do think it's... I need to get good, is what I'll say. It was overwhelming and hard to predict at times, but that's just because I need to get good. I need to play Divinity more, honestly.
Why didn't you keep playing?
I'm
you nerd.
To give you some credit, I think one of the things that Divinity doesn't do very well is that a lot of the areas become so open world, and it's very easy to accidentally stumble into something that is 18 levels higher than you, and you just instantly killed.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah, I don't mind it. It's just like sometimes you just have to accept that. Like, there is no getting good here. You're just under-leveled.
You're just under-leveled.
That's it, all there is to it.
I'm torn, because on the one hand, I love that. I love a dangerous world where if you go off the path, things get harder. But I also understand that in a tabletop game where everybody is deeply in love with their characters, it just doesn't work unless you are massively telegraphing every challenge that is outside of their scope.
Or if you're playing a meat grinder game and everybody's on board for that.
Sure, but I don't think our table wants a meat grinder game.
I don't think it's good for our table, but I know that a lot of people like that Gygaxian, like, hide behind the pile of dead bards.
Right. Hey, are you going to kill Kohaku next session?
That's up to Kohaku.
Well, I'm scared. That's not the answer I want to hear. Oh, boy. Okay. So this got brought up at least once. Multiclassing. We kind of miss multiclassing from 5e. They were under the impression that archetypes just weren't as strong as multiclassing, or they felt not good enough to really be worth dipping. I can see where they're coming from, but I also feel like there are so many 5e problems that are caused by multiclassing being so good. So I feel like maybe that is sometimes you got to take, I don't know, a good metaphor here. I was going to say, like, take Old Yeller out back and shoot him, but I don't think that's the right thing. What am I trying to say? I think it's just too good. I think it had to be killed. I think we have to kill it because it's too broken.
I think that was mine.
It might have been. I know you've mentioned a couple times with Shred that you looked into different archetypes and you tried them and they always just felt subpar. They felt like you were struggling.
Right, because you can't take an archetype. You have to take a class archetype because those are the only ones that are actually good.
Oh, just straight hard disagrees. Hard disagree. I will say
and even among the class archetypes, a lot of those aren't good because their first level feature is the thing that they do, and you don't get that with the archetype.
Boy,
Yeah.
Acrobat, Mounted Combatant,
Acrobat, right?
Well,
Acrobat
yeah.
is one of the only ones that is good, and it's busted as hell because it gives you legendary acrobatics and a bunch of other bullshit.
the Scroll Master, the Bellflower Tiller, or whatever the fuck it's called. Like, I agree that some archetypes are much stronger than others, but I don't think it's divided between class and not class. I think there are some in each.
The
I think
Lore
class
Master,
archetypes are just bad.
Lore Master is terrible. Fuck up
the
Lore
one that
Master.
lets me remember things for a full 24 hours.
Wow, that's amazing. Who
I
could
was-
ever do that?
I was going through feats trying to come up with like some actual subtractive feats to use as example. That was the only one I could find that was like, yeah, this is just straight up a subtractive feat. It is just bad, and we're going to ignore it.
We
Scroll
better
Master-
not, because I'm taking it.
Are you taking it? All right, excellent.
If we're playing Pathfinder, I'm taking every subtractive feat to make this as insufferable for everyone as possible.
Well then,
Why do you do this to yourself?
well, it's fine that he does it because I have canonically written right here that if we encounter subtractive feats that are actually subtractive, we will revamp them to be different.
It better be fucking good then.
It'll be fucking good. So what I'm going to do, and we should actually talk about this. What I'm going to run into, when we run into feats that are just stupid, either because they're subtractive or because they work with a system that we're going to ignore, like group coercion will no longer exist because we're not using the dumb social system. Or it's just like, this isn't great, this was clearly like a fluff thing that it isn't as good as everything else is at the same level. I'm going to take the spirit of it, and I'm going to revamp it to follow the spirit, but to be appropriately powerful. So for that Lore Master dedication, it would probably look a little closer to 5e's Keen Mind feat, where it's not just, oh, you can remember for 24 hours, which is fucking stupid. It'll be closer to like, oh yeah, you can easily remember anything that you've heard in the past month. You like have a very sharp memory. You always know a direction. You can quickly read through a book and remember several pages of content. It'll be amped up. It'll be made useful.
Thank God.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the plan. I really want to reiterate, if we use PF2, things are going to be buffed. If we play 5e, things are going to be nerfed. If we play PF2, things are going to be buffed. The players will be more powerful than what we've experienced. I intend to raise the power level of the system across the board. Not a ton, because I think we all know what happens when you get to 5e levels of power. But maybe we shouldn't be struggling to remember the name of the guildmaster that we learned 4 hours ago. Like, that's fucking stupid.
Yeah. Can we maybe also not do the you get twice as many feats thing?
Oh boy, I'm intrigued. Talk to me. Talk to me about why.
Because A, it doesn't actually make us any more powerful, and B, I don't want to have a fucking encyclopedia.
I'll throw a poll up. I'll see what everybody thinks.
I'm gonna lose on this. It's just that
You sure are.
it was just like a really to roast our playtest a little bit.
Sure.
I think it was a really bad option for the playtest because there was already too much shit to
Yeah.
try and micromanage.
Hard
and
agree.
doubling everything on top of like cycling through 10 levels in 12 sessions was just way too much.
Yep, big agree. Huge regret for this playtest. I have learned lessons. One of them is certainly don't race through 10 levels of a brand new system that has 3 times the content of 5e in 2 months. And especially don't do all that with the free archetype variant, adding another 20% to this monumental task.
And Ancestry.
And Ancestry, yeah, that's true.
Yep.
Boy, yeah. Yep, absolutely. Lesson learned. Too much learning, too fast. It was a nightmare for everybody. I'm proud of all of us for getting through it. But we'll move much, much slower for the main campaign, and I'm looking forward to that.
To pull a little bit from chat because they agree with me. My wonderful boyfriend agrees that PF2 is just very bloated.
Yeah,
That's all I had to say.
no, that's fair. I'll take it. This, I think, is kind of gonna... Yeah, it sure is. Isn't it wonderful? Isn't it wonderful having so much content? And I realize that we're gonna have different answers to that, but I don't mind having a mountain of content to sift through because I have no life.
I don't mind a lot of content if that content is good. I don't like having to sift through 80% shitty content that has no application for me in order to find the 20% that is like mildly okay.
Yeah. I'm going to join you for a second. I'm going to hop over to your seat on the PF2 as dumb chair. Pathfinder 2 frequently feels like, what if 5e just published their UA without testing it? Like, what if... Because if you include all of the UAs that have ever been published, it's about the same amount of content that PF2 had. And about the same quality.
I don't think it is. It's, D&D has been very slow to add content. They've added a lot of like settings and modules, but they haven't added a lot of content.
Oh, I don't know. If you like toggle on all the UA over on 5e tools, it like triples the length of most of those lists. And a lot of that content is garbage. The difference is that they don't publish it, and PF2 does.
You have to remember that every class that they publish or subclass that they publish is only 3 features.
True.
As opposed to Pathfinder, where they're like, here's 20 new feats that all do a +1 to some obscure check and nothing else.
Here we go. I'm scooting my chair back out. I'm standing up. I'm walking around the table, and I'm sitting back down in the PF2 is good chair. Thank God. Thank God you actually get to customize your character. Thank Christ.
I will agree with you to a small degree that I do think that 5e does lack a lot of customization, and I think that there should be more branching paths. And I think that more classes, and particularly subclasses, should have been designed to like the Totem Barbarian and the Hunter Ranger.
Sure.
Who got completely shafted and sidelined because those were just not very good classes, even though the fact that they had actual options was very good.
Right, like their archetypes had archetypes. Warlock, to a certain degree, has a little bit of that going on. I think Warlock is one of the best designed 5e classes. Because it just has actual options.
Invocations are great.
Invocations are great. And invocations, for the record, there's a few obvious ones. If you don't take the one that adds your charisma to your Eldritch Blast, you're just wrong. They have definitely fallen into the 5e trap of some of these choices are mandatory, and then you get to have fun. But invocations, after you get past Agonizing Blast, they're all pretty good. There's not a lot of bad choices in there. They're all interesting. They're all roughly the same power level. And I will say, I'm gonna say something wild here. D&D 1 looks stupid. They're making a lot of bad decisions. But one thing they're doing right is they're taking all of those choices that weren't real choices, the choices that were the best, obviously, and they're just baking it in the baseline class. They're taking all the spells that every bard needed to pick, and they're just giving them to the bard. It's a baseline class feature now. And on the one hand, oh no, they're removing, like, now I only have 2 choices instead of 3. But on the other hand, that's how the game already was anyway, so at least they're just codifying it. Yeah. I have such low expectations for D&D 1.
I think just with the sheer massive content, like, still it comes back to the core of the issues that there's no way to sort.
Yeah.
So much content means there's so much versatility and dumb things and stupid characters with no practical purpose, but way to actually sort it, I would be so happy.
Absolutely.
It's overwhelming and everything seems dumb if you can't sift through the pile.
For sure. I do think Pathfinder's great, but it's still not perfect. I like Aeon Purity, but I understand that I'm like only half of us like Aeon Purity, and the other are like, oh my god, this website looks like it was made in the 90s, because it probably was. I don't know, I'm into it. PF2E Tools is hot garbage. It is not good, which is weird because 5e Tools is so great.
Yep. Don't know how they managed to fuck that up.
My boyfriend immediately betrayed me. It's fine.
Yeah, for the record, I think you might be alone on that one. I understand where you're coming from, that it was overwhelming for the playtest, but I think that almost all of us who are on board for PF2 are explicitly on board because we like the extra customization.
Yeah, and like, if I hadn't had it, I literally wouldn't have had a single thing that I could do.
Right. Yeah.
So, like, yeah.
I got you.
Yeah, like taking the champion archetype and having, 2 feats that literally didn't do anything for me for 5 levels was mandatory.
Yeah.
Because by the time I got to 6th level, I actually had a reaction that I could do that was, cool and reasonable.
Yeah. Oh, what else we got? How's everyone's day? How we doing?
Okay.
I'm dead.
Okay.
Are you dead? How was work?
Oh,
Oh man.
I see.
There's probably a bunch of Twitch chat questions and stuff.
Oh yeah, I guess I should Okay, I've been like looking over every now and then, but I should probably like scroll through here and actually pull them out. So let me jump back to 3 hours
probably
ago.
should pull that
But
up.
quick.
Yeah.
Sorry, quick game-related stuff. I've been coming up with a bunch of like at least visual expressions of this character, the C3 character, in my head.
Ooh.
Sketching and doing things, and I'm really getting some ideas together, at least in aesthetic. But I need to stop being horny about it because then I'm not going to make a real character.
No, don't stop.
I'm
Just keep
struggling.
going. It's
Do
okay.
But yeah, it's coming together. I promise. I actually have been thinking about this relentlessly, off and on, since you sent the questionnaire. I'm stuck. It's a new world, new character, and new. I don't know what else people are doing in our group. So
Absolutely. I think
Ooh.
once we settle on a system, I will probably not only do a little bit more prep for the campaign, but like a little more world building, and specifically like try to throw out prompts. So like if you don't have any ideas for what your character is dealing with, here are some ideas. Here are some major conflicts going on in the world that you could potentially be a part of.
okay,
And additionally, with consent from the people who have already submitted their character ideas to me, I might post like brief and vague, like here's a rough summary of one of the characters. If you'd like to be part of that, here's a thing that you could do. You could like, boy, let me try to come up with an example that isn't going to spoil somebody's character. One of the characters is a plumber whose brother was kidnapped by this big dragon in a fiery volcano land because they have a weird like caste system where marriage determines your caste, and he's trying to move up in his caste. If you want your character to be part of that story, here are ways that you could lock in. You could be like a competing suitor, or you could be from the caste system in the lower caste trying to move up in a more ethical way. In other words, not only ways to interact with like major world events, but ways that you can interact with other people's stories or be part of it somehow.
But I think also first off is how secretive are we being about class? Because I don't want to show up at the party and be, oops, all summoners, or oops.
That is up to you guys. I'll sit here and make sure that you guys don't show up with 9 healers. But if you guys would like to be more open and intentionally not stack classes, I'm cool with that. And I guess what I'll do is I'll just throw a quick poll in there and say, like, are you guys cool sharing your class? And I think most people are going to be cool with sharing their class. I know a lot of people do have character secrets, but I don't think anybody is secret about their class that I know of.
And plus in Pathfinder, I feel like at least the class is, it's a general determination, but it doesn't. In 5e, if you're a this kind of warlock, then you're that guy,
Right, yeah. For the record, I hate that in both systems, and I will overrule that in both systems. I loathe, as just a character design concept, I loathe marrying mechanics to lore. I don't think that warlock should have a patron. I don't think that champion should have a god. I think that's all stupid. All of it, every single bit of it, stupid.
Wild.
Yep. If I ever make a homebrew system, you will choose your class, and that will determine mechanically how it plays. But then you will also choose, like... Ooh, sorry about that. And that will be what determines, like, where your powers come from. Was it a freak accident? Were you bitten by a radioactive spire? Or are you, like, bitten by a god? In other words, I think I would...
Bit by a god.
Bit by a god, yeah. I don't know. I feel like I would split the lore of your power from the mechanics of your power.
I thought you were going to go full, like, proletariat. There's, like, no classes, no gods, no nothing.
Oh, well, probably, yeah. I'd love to do a classless system, honestly. I love classless systems.
How about we play Pathfinder with only feats and no class? I don't even know what that means, I'm just saying.
Oh no. Is he dying or am I dying?
He's dying.
Okay.
Yeah, just more Wild portals.
Yeah. I heard people got, like, slurped the other day by wind. Tornadoes. It was scary.
It
Why
narrowly
the fuck?
missed several people. My car has massive dents in it from hail.
Oh, jeez.
I was really hoping that it would just total my car completely, but it didn't.
This is why I'm scared of flat places. It's like entering a new server on Minecraft with no terrain. You're just like, everything's ominous and strange. And then sometimes things just come to like slurp you out of the freaking to the sky. You guys can tell me all.
We can't hear you.
Yeah, you're breaking up a bit. And I'm back.
Ah!
Welcome back. I'm really torn between either playing Brig as a gunslinger, or I play an evil child.
Is that his name, or have you just not named him or her?
I haven't named them. I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay. That's fine. I was just making sure an evil child wasn't their name.
It might be. Who knows?
It could be.
Could I just say, just because children are scary, I think they're meant to be villains. Because I'm gonna feel real awkward every time I'm like if my character's like, wow, finally opening up to these people. That guy's kind of cute, and there's just this ominous child judging me in the corner. I will be very like, I'm scared, Tree.
I love Pip. Pip was great.
But he was a plant, you know.
I mean, he's still a child, though.
Yeah, but he's the creature, a construct. I don't know.
Okay.
It's either that or I play 18 again and accept that PF2 can't allow you to have anything good without fine print.
That is just straight up true, yeah.
Yeah.
This game loves fine print.
Yeah, sure does, doesn't it?
It sure does. Let's sandwich this. Let's come back up for air. First of all, we're gonna have fun no matter what system we use. You guys are all wonderful, and I know we'll do it. I know we'll have a blast no matter what we use. And I think we all kind of understand that as much as we love to argue about game design, once we're at the table playing the game, we're just gonna be the characters and do what we can and have fun. And then we'll spend 6 days between sessions arguing about it, as we always do, as we've done for 7 years, as is the basis and foundation of our friendship. Where was I going with this?
Don't take us too seriously about our hard feelings about the game.
Oh, yeah.
They're not really that strong. We need to make a point now, just to get it out there.
Exactly. We're treating this very seriously, because we're going to be committed to it for anywhere from a year to 3 years. It's hard to say. And just because, we really love arguing about games, but once we get going, we'll be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was totally going to say something else, and I completely lost my train of thought. It's alright.
Was it about not being able to be weird when there's a child looking at you? It's scary.
Children are scary.
Scary, Jane. I'm just kidding. You can literally play anything and have a lot of fun. But I am scared of any child character you present because they're usually evil. Just saying.
Of course, they're always evil.
Don't
All
trust
children
it.
are evil.
I'm sorry, Treat.
It's okay.
You okay? Okay.
I just don't know what to play.
Me either. Not specific.
Got mine pretty set, I think.
Yeah, there's a few people that are totally set in stone, know exactly what they're playing, and I love all of them. Everybody has crazy, I shouldn't say crazy, some of them are actually very mundane, and I think that's kind of why I like them. They're very down-to-earth ideas. Some of them are a little crazy, but I like what I've seen so far, is what I'm trying to say. There are a lot of very wonderful characters that I'm excited about.
My name's Hitch. I'm a potato farmer.
I love it already. That would be such a good fit.
What?
I love stories about normal people that rise to become noteworthy, I guess. A story about, an angelic prince who is sent from heaven to save the world from an evil dragon. Sure, fine, yeah, whatever, it's fine. But a farmer who, they have to fight to save their family because there's, a skirmish along the border of a couple of warring nations? Fuck yeah, give me that shit. Give me the farmer who learns how to swing a sword.
That's just Donald Fire Emblem.
True. True. Alright, I do need to go pack because Sochi wants to sleep before we fly, and we fly in 7 hours. So I'm going to wrap up the stream here, but I will be back pretty shortly, 15-20 minutes after I finish packing, so I will catch you guys in just a bit.
Okay. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Miss you.
What a nerd.
He doesn't care about me.
It's a bit of a nerd.
You left us.
Okay, there's some